This is The Good Government Show.
I have a lot of faith in mayors, and quite honestly, I think they're the ones that are really running the country on so many levels. It's really been pretty miraculous how much Reno has changed, the diversity, the culture. And so, yeah, it's not just a gaming town anymore. Government always takes the reactive approach. We need to take the proactive approach. And that typically is not what you see. I'm a very positive person, so I just try to focus on the things that I can change and making great things happen in my city. Well, I'm an ex-figure skater, so the competitive side of me is really fierce.
If the mayor can't easily find where to get good mental health care, what chance do the people of her city have? That was the question Reno, Nevada Mayor Hillary Schieve asked when she sought mental health assistance. Welcome to The Good Government Show. I'm your host, Dave Martin. Get ready for a great conversation with the mayor of the biggest little city in the world, Reno, Nevada. Well, we had to overcome a few scheduling challenges like a snowstorm that dumped up to 10 feet of snow over a region, but we did it. We talked about how Mayor Hillary Schieve has become a mental health care advocate both in her city and as president of the Conference of Mayors. She's also trying to make Reno an art city and a green city. I recorded this episode in the early spring, and timing is everything. And since we talked, a year as Conference of Mayors president is over. So listen after the conversation, and I'll let you know how she did as president. First a break, then our conversation, and then stick around for my updates. The Good Government Show is sponsored by Ourco. That means our community. Ourco has found a way to make government more effective. Ourco provides the OUR platform, and this is an app that blends in-person and digital interactions to connect people with their government, their county, their town, their state. The Ourco app transforms meaningful conversations into reliable data. They can turn results into projects and programs the community has essentially already approved. It's sort of like a flash poll by phone, but without the call and in real time and wherever community members are. Maybe they're at their house or their office or where they're out just talking about local issues. Maybe the choice is between putting in more local buses or expanding the bike lanes. Ourco can get you an answer immediately. With OUR, you can engage your citizens or any group, learn what they want, and build programs and policies that advance your county, your job creators, your constituents. So visit ourco.com, that's OURCO.com, and learn how they do it. And while you're there, book a demonstration. After you get done with this episode, hear more good government stories with our friends at How to Really Run a City. Former Mayors Kasim Reed of Atlanta and Michael Nutter of Philadelphia, and their co-host, journalist and author Larry Platt, talk with guests and other mayors about how to really get stuff done in cities around the nation. Check them out where you're listening now or through their nonprofit news site, thephiladelphiacitizen.org/podcasts. So, welcome finally to the Good Government Show, Mayor Hillary Schieve of Reno, Nevada. It is great to finally have you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And we had a little trouble scheduling. We had snowstorms. We had personal crises, but everything's good today. What's the weather in Reno today?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's probably going to be high 60s. So I can't complain because, everything's my fault, including the weather. So I'm taking credit for it.
Okay. And one of the reasons why we had a previous scheduled interview scheduled was you had like record snowfall in like 2 days. And I've read way too much about the Donner Party, which is about 20 minutes west of where you are, where they had like 10 feet of snow. How do you manage something like that?
Well, it's challenging. I think, that those are the days that mayors literally have, anxiety and unrest because you're constantly trying to make sure that you have every single snow plow and tool ready to go in the toolbox. But we're kind of used to it, right?
But you're not used to 10 feet of snow in 2 days. And that's pretty much what you had, right?
That's a little bit different,
Yeah.
obviously. But, you just try to make sure that you're firing on all four cylinders. And it's a tough time. I don't think people realize how hard that is for our public works department. Those guys work, literally for 3 days straight without going home, seeing their families, those, types of things. But it was really challenging because they closed the pass. Right. So that becomes challenging, whether it's like with your mail. And by the way, it's kind of weird. The United States Postal Service wants to change our mail service to Sacramento. And so we've been kind of going through this big debate about it. And all of our congressional leaders have been, sort of screaming. I've been screaming that you can't do this. And they're going to do it anyway. But that was sort of the calm before the storm, where we all started to say, you cannot do this because look at, people can't get their medications, those kinds of things. So that snowstorm really sort of highlighted the issues if our mail should end up going to the Sacramento agency from Reno.
So actually some good came out of a huge snowstorm.
Well, not yet. They just had a congressional hearing, and our senator from Nevada, Jackie Rosen, did a phenomenal job. And so we'll see. We're all keeping our fingers crossed, but I think it really highlighted the fact that our mail needs to stay local.
Okay. Now, we met in Washington, D.C. at the Conference of Mayors, of which you are president. So give us some optimism from your view. Nationally, you're in touch with mayors across the country. How's government doing? Well, remember, this is the good government show.
It's not the bad government show.
No, it is not the bad government show.
No, mayors are really interesting. A lot of mayors obviously are parties, but for the most part, when you're a mayor, we always say there's no Democratic or Republican way to fill a pothole. Right. We are very bipartisan. The issues that affect us are very, very local, and we live in our communities. So we're always trying to be a part of the solution. And we also, we work 24/7, 365 days a year. And so we don't get the opportunity to shut down like you see in Washington, right? We work all the time, and we want to make sure that our cities are running really well. But mayors they're really interesting because we don't play really into the national politics that you typically see. So I would say, honestly, mayor's on a totally different level. So I'm very optimistic in a lot of ways. And I think people really should have a lot of hope, especially in their local government.
What is it that you see people are doing across the nation, mayors are doing across the nation, that inspires you? Well,
they're big time problem solvers, but they're very, very optimistic. And they're big time fighters, like you definitely saw in the pandemic. Sometimes you would see, mayors sort of fighting with their governors, for different reasons, but they're just so local that, these are people that they know their neighbors. They see them at the grocery stores. They see them.
Well, I was going to ask you, how long does it take you to get out of the grocery store?
Well, I always joke. I go about at 11:55 at night. Okay. So, but, I would say mayors are also very entrepreneurial. They're very visionary. We're big time collaborators. And again, I just think because we are so local and we know our neighbors and we live in the communities in which we serve, that we want it better for all. So it's not nearly as political.
Okay.
But I would just say that, I have a lot of faith in mayors. And quite honestly, I think they're the ones that are really running the country on so many levels.
So I've never been to Reno, heard a little bit about it over the years. Tell me about the name, the biggest little city in the world. Where does that come from? And is it the biggest little city in the world?
Actually, it was named by a gentleman from Sacramento. Okay. Not even from Reno. And I think he got paid $100 to name it Reno.
Okay.
But Reno is really interesting. I mean, it's really evolved. I was born and raised here, and we have 320 days of sunshine. People probably don't know that about Reno, so that makes my job a little easier when we have a lot of sunshine. And
it could be snow and sunshine, but it's still sunshine.
Except for that snow.
Okay.
But we have been known as a very predominantly gaming town for decades and decades. It's what we're known for. And
divorce.
But
back in the day,
yeah, quickie divorces, for sure. And then there's been sort of this big transformation in Reno in the last 10 years. We're what they call a breakout city. And a lot of that has to do with a lot of the tech industry that's moved here, like Tesla, Amazon, Apple, have all been building and investing here in Reno. And it's changed just dramatically. And then the other thing that I focused on a lot is arts and culture. We were not really known as predominantly an arts and culture hub. And, we are today. We have Burning Man. Have you ever heard of Burning Man?
Of course. Yes. Have you attended?
Burning Man right in our backyard. Yes, I have.
Okay. Many times.
Not only have I attended, Dave.
Yes.
I have taken mayors out there.
Oh, good.
So
all right.
It's the largest pop-up city in the world during that week. And there's a lot to learn about it, a lot to learn about sustainability, a lot to learn about infrastructure. It's, brings in $70 million of economic impact into my city. So there's a lot to learn when it comes to Burning Man. And then also, I'm a big believer in arts. I think it's the way that you package a city. When you first arrive in a city, when you get out of the airport or, entering a new city and you see some art that inspires you in some way or makes you think a little bit different, I think that it changes the perception of people's minds. And also I'm big into art therapy and expression and just, performing arts, those kinds of things that I think make a city healthier. So we've infused a lot of art throughout Reno, and it's changed dramatically. So we have a lot of artists that move here, a lot of young entrepreneurs. It's really been pretty miraculous how much Reno has changed, the diversity, the culture. And so, it's not just a gaming town anymore. It's really become incredibly vibrant, and it's exciting.
You talk about Reno as a gaming town, and certainly casinos and gaming is part of your legacy. When one thinks of Nevada, they think of Las Vegas, which is the big gaming city in your state. What's the biggest difference in coming to Reno and going to Vegas?
Oh, it's it's night and day.
Yeah.
Do
I have better odds at the tables in Reno? Maybe.
Well, we definitely celebrate jackpots much more, I would say. But
good.
It's a whole different dynamic. The landscape here in our terrain, we have one of the best backyard playgrounds you could ever ask for. Incredible skiing. Summer sports are phenomenal. Just 20 minutes away up the hill to Lake Tahoe. I mean, it's very, very different. We are not, the big glitzy glamour shows that you would see in Las Vegas, which is all, that's all great because tourism is fantastic. And I'm a huge supporter of tourism. Our tourism is just a little bit different. It's more, outdoorsy. And I would say in the day we play really hard and at night we play really hard too. So we kind of have the best of both worlds, right? We're a little gritty too at night, probably because of the gaming component. But then in the day, beautiful blue skies, very healthy lifestyle, so we get a lot of people that are big sports enthusiasts, especially outdoor enthusiasts.
So let's talk about some of the things that you're doing as mayor and some of the things that you are championing. You ran and have made mental health care a priority, both as president of the Conference of Mayors and as mayor of Reno. How did this come about? I know there's some family story in there. And What have you been able to accomplish?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Do you feel like you've made a difference? Do you feel like you've made strides in mental health care?
Yeah, I do, only because the feedback that I receive, a lot of people say to me, Mayor Schieve, I never talked about my own mental health struggles because of the stigma. And I didn't talk about sort of what was happening in my family and sort of also the things that you see as a mayor, especially when it comes to, we're on the ground so much. So especially when it comes to homelessness, addiction, you see a lot of that. And for so long, I didn't talk about it because there was such a stigma to it. And, it was very predominant in my family for years and years. I just sort of grew up in a family where I had a brother and a sister that struggled with addiction and depression and bipolar. And so, especially being a mayor, I didn't want anyone to know that, at home, it was pretty dysfunctional.
Right.
And so for so long, it was something I never talked about. And then, unfortunately, a few years ago, I lost my brother and my sister within a very short period of time of a couple months of each other. And it was due to mental illness. And it was during the pandemic as well. So it was really, really tough on me because being in a pandemic and being a mayor was just beyond anything that you could imagine. And I was actually the first city to shut down in Nevada. And that's a really, really hard thing to do, because there's no playbook on doing anything like that. So during that time, whenever I lost them and we were sort of feeling incredibly out of control during a pandemic, I started to struggle with my own mental health. And, it wasn't until a reporter came to me and said, "Can I tell your story?" Because she'd read a little bit about my brother and sister, but it was something that I had hid for many, many years. And finally, whenever I told my story, this huge weight lifted off my shoulders. And I just thought, if I'm struggling right now to this extent, then my entire community is struggling. And obviously, it's, across the world.
Right. So like any other issue, you shine a light on it, and that frees people to discuss it and bring it out into the open and deal with it, right?
Well, that was exactly it, because I said, if your mayor's not talking about it, then who is? So once I came out and talked about, the challenges with my family and even my own mental health, then a lot of people started opening up to me. I started to receive letters from all across the country. And a lot of people saying, I could never talk about it. I could never talk about it. So your story as a mayor just highlights even more so that this isn't isolated, that many people are in the dark. And by you talking about it, I feel comfortable talking about it. And so actually at that time, I think it was really good for me to sort of recognize, because I thought, we've got to do something different. We've got to provide access to mental health care. And I learned a big lesson because I started calling around to see if I could get in to speak to someone to go get therapy. And at the time, because it was in the pandemic, it was even more challenging.
Sure. What
I learned was that we have such an incredible shortage of healthcare workers. I learned that you can have great health insurance, but that still doesn't matter. You're going to have to pay in cash.
I think I read somewhere you made a comment like, if the mayor can't find help, what chance do the other people have?
It's true. And when I called, I obviously didn't say, "Hey, I'm the mayor," because I want to be
right.
everyone else. Right.
Yeah.
So that, it was a huge eye opener. So I started to think really differently, like, how can I get my citizens therapy if they need it, especially right now in a pandemic when people aren't working and, staying at home. And there are so many kids that go to school just to have a healthy outlet in life. Right.
Right.
Because home life is really challenging for a lot of people. And so I reached out to a platform, an online platform, And I took some of our CARES Act dollars that we got from the federal government, and I bought every single citizen a subscription for mental health care virtually for a year.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was
that's something. You bought, I want to make sure I got this correctly. You bought an online mental health care sessions for the citizens.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's something.
250,000 approximately.
Which, budget wise is kind of a drop in the bucket, right? I mean, it's not nothing, but we're not talking millions here.
Well, it costs a lot.
Okay.
But it was the CARES Act money that was given to cities to somehow use it for COVID relief and those types of things.
Okay.
And so it was just, one portion of it, but it was something I felt so strongly about. And, I thought this is actually the approach that we need to take, because government always takes the reactive approach. We need to take the proactive approach. And that typically is not what you see. So I thought, and it was very risky. A lot of people criticized me for it. It was challenging, but once people started to use it, it really opened my eyes. A, how many people were struggling. B, 42% of the people that use the platform had never sought out therapy ever. 42%. So that tells you a lot of people,
like almost half, right?
Yeah. Right. And then we saw a very high amount of 18 to 24-year-olds. Mental health in this country right now has just been disastrous for, our younger populations. We're seeing high rates of suicide, those types of things. So I said, because like I said, I took a lot of criticism for it, but I always felt like if we can save one person's life, then you can't put a price on it. And it was expensive. It was about $1 million. And, I just thought, think about it. If we can avoid someone using, right? There were a lot of people that suffer from addiction and, probably feeling like using, especially in a pandemic.
Yep.
Or, beating their child or whatever. If we can avoid some of these things that cost cities an astronomical amount, because we're doing something about their mental health, we're going to be in a much better space. So, it turned out in the end, we had about 5,000 users, and it just, the letters I received, just some of them were just so heartbreaking, but yet at the same time, because they used the service, it truly saved some people's lives. And it just really gave me such a different perspective. But it also, mental health care is something that is not accessible to everyone. And it's very, very challenging to sort of receive that type of care for many different reasons. So again, that's kind of where I became really passionate about it over the letters that I received from people using the subscription, where I was like, we have to do something. We absolutely have to do something. And obviously, most of my life, I watched my sister and my brother suffer, so much. And so, now it's just been something that I'm very passionate about. And it's not something that I've heard a lot of politicians talk about, or even to the level to understand the dynamics. And think about it. If you don't have your mental health, there is no way that you're going to have a healthy city, a healthy country. You would not have education. You would not have infrastructure, nothing. You cannot run a city without strong mental health.
And I understand that you sent a survey to your counterparts at the Conference of Mayors to get a look at what is happening nationally. What did that survey tell you? Yeah,
it was incredibly alarming. About 90% of mayors said that they don't have services in their city. And typically, one of the biggest reasons is that the way that cities are funded that money usually comes from the federal government to the state and then goes to the counties. And the reason it goes to the counties is that Health and Human Services are typically under the county, and they're not under cities. And that's particularly alarming because it's our first responders that are dealing with the crisis. It's our ERs that are dealing with the crisis. It's our jails. We're using our jails as mental health hospitals. Typically in ERs, they are not equipped at all to handle mental health. That's where they fix, broken bones, not broken brains.
I think I have a quote from you somewhere that says, we shouldn't have to call the police to get our loved ones' medical health today.
Yeah, exactly. And I went through that with my brother so many times that I couldn't believe that I would have to have him arrested in order to get him, into a program that, that a judge would say, hey, we can get you into this program. But it shouldn't have to go to that extent. And it's the only healthcare crisis that we send police officers to. We don't send doctors to mental health crises on the street.
Some cities have started sending social workers out with police officers. Have you been able to do that in Reno?
Yeah. So we have a regional MOST team now because I've really been pushing, and we're doing a 24/7 mental health facility so that police officers, when they encounter someone on the street or even in a home environment, doesn't matter what it looks like, that they have a place to take them. Because right now, most cities, the only place to take them is the jail and the ERs. And the ERs, honestly, they don't know how to deal with it. So they typically release you very, very early in times of crisis or times of feeling suicidal or homicidal. It's really, really dangerous. And so cities are now, because I think a lot of the work that we've been doing at the conference, looking at all these different models, to deploy. And so I think that we're finally starting to see large amounts of success. And I would say too, people, I don't know if they really are aware the amount of mental illness that we're seeing on our streets with our homeless population, addiction, those types of crises. So we have to, hit the ground running and tackle it. Like I said, we have to be proactive instead of reactive. And that comes with sending out those mental health professionals along with our first responders.
So let's switch topics a little bit. It seems like you've been able to make some good progress on the homeless situation in Reno, something called the Nevada Cares Campus. Can you tell me a little bit about how that's going?
Sure. Let's see.
This is good news.
This is good news.
Yes.
Well, and here's the thing. It was a project that we all did regionally. So I'm very proud of that because I think it's very, very important to work with all your partners. Usually that's not always the case for mayors. So I have great relationships with my regional partners, and that really helps tremendously. But it was a project that was supposed to take 5 years, and it literally came in about 10 months into the process that we got it up and running. So you see, sometimes you can get through the bureaucracy faster than you think. If you really believe you can, you will. So, but we built this CARES campus, and we're really trying to take a different approach when it comes to homelessness and addiction. And what I mean by that is not one size fits all. We have to triage the reasons why people are homeless and how they got there, because everything that we've been doing in this country has been failing. There's been sort of what they call this housing first model, which is fantastic, but it does not work for everyone. And it's sort of the model that cities have adopted for years and years and years. And that is, just put people in housing, that they'll be fine. We can just put them in housing. But we really know that does not work, depending on the reason why they're homeless. So we have to triage, because we see it all the time. Sometimes it's situational. Sometimes it's addiction. Sometimes it's mental health. And if we don't treat that first, then they can never sustain long-term housing. So we're really taking a different approach when people are starting to experience homelessness. Sometimes you see, senior populations that really it's just because they're living on these very tight fixed incomes. And so then they tend to fall into homelessness. But those are people too that we see can sustain long-term housing. So those people work great for the housing first model. But if someone is suffering from mental illness or addiction, typically they can't sustain housing. So for those
you can give them a house, but that's only part of the solution.
Right. Yeah. And so for those individuals, you have to get them care first so that they can sustain that later on. And so you got to give them the tools first to be successful down the road, or treatment or healthcare, those types of things. And so that's where the CARES campus is a little bit different. And also we have pods too. We're doing, we've brought in sort of these modulars so that people can have privacy. They feel, not nearly the stigma that you would see with people experiencing homelessness. There's dignity is really, really important. Now, listen, it is not perfect. We still have a long way to go. But I think our approach is something where we've said what we've been doing for decades has been failing. Now we have to do something different. And we're seeing really some phenomenal results. And we've had, a lot of success. And, we've been talking about it nationally, and they've been highlighting our program. Well,
people have come to Reno to see what you're doing from other cities, right?
Yeah, they do. And, so we're really proud of it and take a lot of pride. But like I said, I think, so much of it too happens to be the regional partnerships that we have, because you tend to typically see a lot of fragmented politics, especially when it comes to, the homeless situation, because and especially on the West Coast, it's very, very stark.
I know that you have come up with some climate programs, and you sort of declared Reno to be a green city, or moving in that direction. Just tell me a couple of things you've been able to accomplish.
A lot of people don't know this, but Reno is the fastest warming city in the country.
Really?
So we are really, really attuned to it. We have partnered with a lot of innovative companies that are local. I'm a big entrepreneur. And so I like to work with our local entrepreneurs, and one of them is called NZero, and they measure our power in real time, so we can be very, very nimble. Typically, you don't see a lot of governments do that. So we've been doing that so we can really pinpoint where, that power usage is and dial it back. Also, we have Tesla right here in our backyard. So, the good old EV vehicles, right. Doing a lot of programs in that space, LEED buildings, making sure that we have green buildings, incentivizing the people that use them, those types of things. And we're always doing climate initiatives, and, we got to be good to our planet. So it's something we're very, very passionate about. And then I have a council member who is the champion on trees and really building up our tree canopy. I think that's really important. I get to work with really talented people, so I'm very fortunate.
I want to ask you about something else, a whole different topic. You've been sort of the victim of kind of some dirty, some kind of nasty politics. And, we don't really get into politics on the Good Government Show. We try to keep it positive. But how can you turn that into I guess explaining to citizens, how this is not helpful, or, how do you explain to people that, forget all this noise. We're working hard. The government still continues to work.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, unfortunately or fortunately, my addiction is work.
Okay.
I am constantly working, and
But you were the victim of some pretty nasty politics, as I understand it. Somebody tracked your car, brought you up on charges, and, you still have to manage that. You still have to be the mayor.
Right. I found a GPS tracker under my car about a year ago.
Right.
And it was shocking, quite honestly. And it was alarming, because think about it. If you find something like that under your car, the first thing you think of is that someone wants to kill you.
Yeah.
So that brought a lot of anxiety and a whole new level to sort of the dynamics of politics, because we still don't know who put it there. It was a private investigator. We do know that. And we're going to court right now because I think it's important to know who it is so that I can take care of my safety. So even though it's very, very stressful and I live my life completely differently now, because obviously,
hence the 11:55 visit to the supermarket.
right. Exactly.
But how does this help, or how does this hurt the sort of conversation that has to go on every day about, is government effective? What does that do? And how do you manage that? Well,
and also I always think good comes out of certain things. And one of the things that came out of it when that story came out, it was a national story. And I had women from all over sharing their stories about being stalked or some of, the horrific things that have happened to them. And I'm really grateful that, out of it, the legislature took it upon themselves here in Nevada to outlaw tracking devices on cars. And so I'm really grateful for that. And there's a lot of women in Nevada that have reached out and said, thank you so much. I was stalked by, a boyfriend or someone I didn't know, those kinds of things. So again, I think when you take an issue and you highlight it, you look at it and say, how can we do something positive with it? And so that's the good news, is that now in Nevada, it's against the law. And I sort of feel like I didn't have anything to do with it, but I think the legislators that did, looked at it and said, we've gotten to a place where it's absolutely unacceptable, whether it's a politician or whether it's, your mother, your sister, your brother, it doesn't matter who it is. Invasion of privacy can be a very, very scary thing. But at the end of the day, I look at that bill and I'm super grateful because maybe it'll save, some young woman's life or, someone's life in general, just because now there's, a law against doing something like that. But I will tell you, it's been very, very stressful, but I also won't let someone win. Right. I'm going to every day and work hard, and focus
still go to
on
the grocery store.
Yes, I still have to go to the grocery store, but I do take family members with me now.
Okay.
Like I said, I've had to adjust my life and live it.
And nobody should have to do that.
Yeah, because we still don't know who it is, and we're in court right now. So hopefully one day I'll be able to, have a little bit of, peace when this is over. But for now, I'm a very positive person. So I just try to focus on the things that I can change and making great things happen in my city.
So the Reno Aces are the AAA baseball team in Reno. How's the season looking? And have you got to throw out the first pitch ever?
Oh, I can't believe you just brought that
up. Why?
Are you a baseball fan?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we just had our first game.
Okay.
I have a.
You have a dog?
I'm fostering a couple dogs here, so
great.
I apologize.
That's okay.
That's the other thing that I do is I have a big basement and I love to foster dogs.
Okay, good. Because you have all the free time. So baseball, did you throw out the first pitch?
Yeah. No, I didn't throw out the first pitch, but unfortunately we just had our first game and we lost.
Oh.
And I'm very competitive. I hate to lose. And we're the farm team for the Diamondbacks. So, right. We have a beautiful stadium here. And so baseball is one of my all-time favorites. And we have the Play Ball initiative at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Okay, so we do a lot with bringing children into the stadium and exposing them to baseball and those kinds of things. But yeah, it's a sore subject, Dave, because we just our first game. Okay. But I told them, get the losses over early and then let's go for the championship.
All right. So you'll be following the Reno Aces this year. All right. Now, all of that is just the prequel to our real conversation we're going to have, which is our Good Government Show questionnaire. You are, by the way, you are the USA Today Woman of the Year. You're a 3-term mayor. You were a city councilwoman for, I think, at least 2 years and president of the Conference of Mayors. So from where you sit, define good government.
I think it's collaboration. I think it's always being able to work with both sides. I think that it's fostering innovation, not being afraid to fail is good government, because government, as you know, makes a lot of mistakes. But I think is when we stop trying is when we fail. And a lot of people, remember, politicians are very scared to go out there and make mistakes, right? Because they want to get reelected. So that's part of the problem. Sometimes they play everything, very, very safe and politically. And if you want good government, you got to take risks, and people might not always embrace that. But I think it's really, really important. Again, it's something that you have to be willing to take opportunities, work with others, people that are smarter than you. That's another big one. There's a lot of experts that would never run for office, but they're incredibly talented. And reaching out to those people, those are what are going to make a difference.
Other than being reelected, you've been reelected 3 times. How do you judge your success, on a weekly or daily basis?
Oh, I'm terrible because I'm an ex-figure skater. Wow. So the competitive side of me is really fierce. Yes. And so
do you have your staff hold up cards? A 9 today?
Well, I'm always like, oh, we could have done better. We could have done better. And they're like, what are you talking about? We just, won this huge award. We just won a huge award for being voted happiest city in America. Is
that true? Are you the happiest city in America?
I think we are,
okay,
but
right.
I'm biased.
Okay.
But and we're working towards it, trying to work towards better mental health, of course. So we are pretty happy here. And I think 320 days of sunshine really helps. But I think, for the most part, I'm always striving to be better. I'm always willing to look at our challenges. I just feel like, we can always be doing more and be doing it better. That's probably a bad thing for my team that I drive them crazy.
Well, how do people, the citizens of Reno, know if they're getting government, and how should they hold you accountable?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question. I think, sometimes we get it wrong and we don't communicate to the level that we need to be on maybe things that are controversial, whether it's, housing projects or certain ordinances that are coming to council. It can be challenging because we're living in a time where there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of things coming at you, especially with social media. Yep. And so there's a lot more distractions today. So we kind of have to fight some of that. And then part of it too, people elect us for a reason because they're busy putting food on the table for their families. They're not paying attention all the time what's happening. So sometimes you really have to go the extra mile to let your citizens know, hey, this is happening. We need you to come down to City Hall. We need to hear your voice. It's really important because it is true. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And, there are a lot of times too that in a council meeting, you might feel one way about something, and a citizen that has never come in front of you before, ever been to a city council meeting, can have a very different perspective and change your mind entirely. So don't ever think that your voice doesn't matter or what you have to bring to the table doesn't matter, because it really, really can affect change locally and right at home.
As an elected official, both as a city council person and as a mayor, a government insider, what would you like people to know about government, about how it works, and about, the stuff they don't see?
Yeah, that is a great question. I think
it's our Good Government Show questionnaire.
I love it. I think that we deal with a lot of land use. The city council deals with a lot of land use, and people, I think there's a misconception or perception that we have the ability to stop certain projects or prohibit businesses, certain things. But remember, people have property rights, and so a lot of times you end up getting sued when you can't make the findings. You have to have very, very good reasons, legal reasons to make findings, right? So sometimes things get approved And, because they have property rights, also, massive liability sometimes. I think those things are really hard because a lot of times you can philosophically feel some way, and I totally understand that. But there's the other side to it, that there's a legal ramification of doing that can cost your city millions and millions of dollars, right? So I think people have a perception sometimes that the council can absolutely say no, not happening. You have to have a good reason, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes that's frustrating. But I also think that, people think that seriously that now, and it's difficult. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there now more than ever. And people also think, you're a corrupt politician. We're just,
people think you're a politician, so you're corrupt.
100%.
That's a perception a lot of times.
100%. And really, when you got elected, like, we're like everyone else. We're like you. We're like our neighbors. We just wanted to run for office to, leave a legacy in our city and make it better for everyone that lives here. And so people have a perception that now you're on the inside and you're still really on the outside. Even sometimes, people that have worked in government will say, I'm working here 20 years, you're working here 4 years. Sometimes there's that mentality.
Right.
And you're still really, really an outsider because you don't work there. You were elected. And so sometimes that's hard to get over, and just sometimes changing the mindset of, there is a lot of bureaucracy. I ran for office because I was frustrated that the city wanted to charge me $5,000 to move my sign 2 feet in my business. And I was like, that's it. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm going to run for office.
Isn't that why Sonny Bono ran for office in Palm Springs? Kind of a similar idea.
Yeah.
They made him change his sign at his restaurant. Okay.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So those are the things, like I said, I never thought I would run for office. I'm not a politician. I'm not even a party. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm a nonpartisan. And so you just see a level of distrust. And I think that that's really hard to take, especially when you see the people that show up every single day, that clean our streets, that do the hard work, and that really love what they do. And so it can be challenging.
So who is your political hero? Who inspired you to do this? Is it something you thought about?
Oh, gosh, that's such a good question. I think I was inspired to run for office because I grew up in a household where my father was a staunch Republican. My mother was a staunch Democrat. It's probably why I'm a nonpartisan.
Maybe.
I mean, my mom always told me, Hillary, if you want to change something, then you've got to go out there and do it yourself and, be ferocious and never give up. Like I said, I'm super optimistic about everything. And so I just, I love people, and I want to make things better for people. And I love helping people and serving, and, and I was born and raised in Reno. And I also think that, there wasn't a lot to do here at the time. So I said, one day I want Reno to be thriving with arts and culture and innovation and technology, and and keep the kids that go to the University of Nevada, Reno here, and void the brain drain and keep them in my city. And and so I didn't have that growing up here. So I also thought it was a great opportunity to actually do something that might make a difference, for generations.
Now that you're in office, are there politicians that inspire you, and who are they?
Oh, let's see. That is a tough one. I'll tell you my two.
Okay, please.
Jamie Raskin. He is amazing man and human.
And who is he?
Wonderful. Jamie Raskin. He is a senator, and he lost his son to suicide, and he's been a huge champion for mental health, and he's been battling. He's just incredibly inspirational. And then the other one that I admire tremendously is Liz Cheney.
Okay.
I think, she's incredibly brave, and she's showing women to, find your voice and to not be afraid. I think she's really, really remarkable. There are politicians that really inspire me. And I would say our past mayor was a wonderful, wonderful man and showed me what it looks like to be a great mayor. So, I'm very lucky. I have a lot of people in my life that inspire me.
Were you president of your senior class in high school? Were you in student government in college? No. Any of that stuff? Did you think this was a future for you?
Never. I was one of those kids that you probably could find me cutting class.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
I thought there was nothing to do. Why were you going to school, young lady?
Well, right. Well, I was bored at school. I wanted to be an entrepreneur more than anything. So I kind of always just grew up around it. My grandfather was a big entrepreneur and an inventor. Okay. So I kind of had it in my blood. But I got really bored at school, and so I tend to cut class a lot. Okay. And then I also was a figure skater. So when I'd cut class, I was actually going to the ice rink. So I got to be honest.
All right, but never politics. That was never part of your mission. It wasn't part of your thinking. Okay.
I will say one thing.
Yes.
That we haven't talked about. I'm a big advocate for organ donation. My sister Amanda donated her kidney to me. I went into kidney failure about 20 years ago from strep throat. And it caused me to have to go on dialysis. And I was so fortunate that my sister donated her kidney to me. So I actually started kind of getting into a little bit of politics when I started advocating for organ donation. Okay. And so a little bit on that level. So I kind of started out as an advocate for organ donation, and that sort of opened my eyes a little bit to probably being on that side of the aisle.
That is a good way to get inspired and get involved. All right. Now, I've never been to Reno. You've lived there your whole life. I'm coming to Reno. You're taking me out. Where are we going? What are we having? What is the dish of Reno? What is Reno famous for? Take me to Reno.
Well, definitely. You have to come. I think you'll like what we've done with the place.
Okay, good.
Okay. First thing that we would do is we would go on, I hope you like to, rock climb, because we have the world's largest rock climbing wall right in downtown Reno, just steps away from City Hall, overlooking casinos. Okay. Who has that?
All right. No, I can't think of anyone.
We're going to go rock climbing. The second thing that we're going to do is that we're going to get in a raft and head down the Truckee River. It runs right through our city, and it's absolutely beautiful and stunning. And then the next thing we do is we would go on a mural tour of the incredible artistry that's around my city. And then we would head over to get pecan punches at our Basque restaurant, because we love our Basque food here. And
all right, sit down. Pecan punch, describe, please. Yeah.
I don't know what's in it, but it's good. I don't know, but long-time Nevada favorite. And it's a cool environment when you're eating Basque food, because it's family style. So you sit with people you don't know. Okay. And you bread with them. And so it's sort of the Nevada way. So that's super awesome. And then
what do you order there? What's your regular order?
Okay. Rocky Mountain oysters.
Okay. All right.
That's Basque food, my friend.
Okay. Rocky Mountain oysters.
Yep. And then after that, we would head to Midtown and have lots of very, very cool local vibey, bars, and all the, young kids like to hang out there, as I call them. Okay. And then, you know what? Then after that, we got to go play some craps and some 21.
What's your game? What do you play when you go to the casino?
Oh, I like craps.
You did. All right. How often do you play? How often do you get out?
Oh, when you live here, you don't do it that much. I mean, I only probably do it when I have friends come to visit. That was sort of something we did in college. We would, stand around at the craps table and, because they would have like dollar craps. So of course we were cheap and wanted some, fun. So, all right. That's my
do you win? Are you a successful player?
I've hit a jackpot here and there for a couple bucks, but no, I'm not a big time gambler.
Okay. Well, me either. So Rocky Mountain oysters, that's the dish of Reno, you're saying, huh? That's the one to have.
Or an awful burger. It was one of the best burgers ever. And you can still get one, but it was from a casino that you would go eat late night. Probably something you would see more in like drive-ins, dives, and diners or whatever that show. Right. Yeah, that's something you probably see there, but that's also a Reno favorite.
The awful burger.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, this is the Good Government Show. We like to always bring it back to good government. Tell me about a good government project we haven't talked about that you're pretty proud of that you've been able to pull off in Reno.
Well, the one that I think I'm going to be the most proud of. Well, we have a huge aquatics facility coming online, which I think is amazing. But no, I think for me, it's going to be 24/7 mental health facility. Doors will be open for anyone that needs mental health and treatment. And then what we're doing is we're partnering with nonprofits and other agencies that provide addiction and mental health treatment. And so then we will have caseworkers that follow individuals. It's what they call a living room model, not like what you would see in a hospital, setting, because that's not what they need. And so I'm really excited that, this is a project I've been working on for about 7 years, and it's finally coming to fruition. We're getting ready to break ground. And, hopefully we'll have it up by September, and making sure that everyone is receiving all the help that they need when it comes to mental health and addiction.
Mayor Hillary Schieve of Reno, Nevada, Mayor of Reno, Nevada, and President of the Conference of Mayors. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure and a delight talking with you. Thank you for sticking with it and taking care of the dogs and finally getting it done. It was great to have you. Thank
you so much, Dave. And I really appreciate you putting up with the barking, just kind of one aspect of mayor life.
Where do you get your news from? Where do you get your state and local government news from? Because that's getting harder and harder. And it's essential to stay updated with your community. And it's becoming increasingly important to know what's going on in other cities and states, because they're likely facing challenges that you're grappling with too, or you're going to face eventually. That's why we'd like to welcome our new partner, Route 50, to the show. Route 50 is a leading online publication covering state and local governments across the country. They've written about states protecting themselves against the rise in cyber attacks, counties using AI to better support citizen services, local responses to crumbling infrastructure and extreme weather, and much, much more. There's a lot there. It's a one-stop shop for issues affecting state and local governments and their residents. That's you. That's all of us. Do yourself a favor and go to route50.com to see the topics and solutions they cover and learn what other people in government are doing. They also deliver a daily newsletter called Route 50 Today. I see it in my inbox every morning. I check it out, and you should too. Thanks again, Route 50. We're excited to have you on board and being a partner here at the Good Government Show. What is it that county government does? That's the question county commissioners get asked the most, and the simple answer is everything. On the Good Government Show, we're so lucky to have talked with so many county commissioners and other county officials that have shown us how effective county government is. County government dates back to, get this, 1634, making it one of the oldest forms of government in the United States. Think about it. Roads, highways, hospitals, schools, recycling, law enforcement, water, sewers, and most of the county, those services are maintained by the county. That's county government. The National Association of Counties represents all 3,069 counties across the USA. NACo helps county government work better together through things like sharing best practices. When county government works well, that's just good government. It's hard to find good things when bad things happen, but Mayor Hillary Schieve found a way. She turned personal family tragedy into action, making other people's lives better as they struggled with their mental health issues. By any measure, Mayor Schieve had a successful year as Conference of Mayors president. She said it returned trips to Capitol Hill to press for more mental health awareness and funding. She said she had at least 20 mayors advance mental health advocates in their cities. For Reno, she said she was able to get a $30 million federal grant that will help make Reno's waters cleaner. That's a good run. Back in Reno, when she was attacked politically, she set the stage for a statewide ban on the type of attack that made her feel unsafe. This 3-term independent mayor is continuing to make a difference, always moving forward both in her city and helping other mayors create and continue providing good government. And that's what we like to share on the Good Government Show. Well, that's our show. Thanks for listening. Please like us and share us with your friends and review us right here where you're listening. Check out our website, goodgovernmentshow.com, for extras. And join us again for another episode of the Good Government Show. The Good Government Show is a Valley Park production. Jim Ludlow, Dave Martin, that's me, and David Snyder are the executive producers. Our show is edited and produced by Jason Stershic. Please subscribe, then share us, and like us and review us. That's the best way to make sure we're able to keep telling these stories of our government working for all of us. Then listen to the next episode of The Good Government Show.